What are you looking for out of a starting center, since that spot seems to be up in the air right now?
Just a level of play that is consistent and up to a standard that we have for that position. Certainly, I think, that's a key part. I mean, they're the guy talking to the other five, getting everybody on the same page. And, Josh has done a really good job, but, we need more consistency, and got complete confidence that he's fully capable of doing that, and we've seen that from him. But it's just like every other position that we have. I mean, we need to pull out the best of everybody, and so when you have capable people, it naturally creates some level of competition, and ultimately that makes us a better football team when we have guys pushing to compete for starting jobs.
So Tom is working at both. He's competing at right tackle and it looks like maybe center too. Which one do you want to play him at more? How do you give him a fair shot at both?
However it works itself out. I mean, I know you guys roll your eyes every time I say it, so I won't say it, but we are going to try to put our best out there.
Best what?
Best five. There you go, Matt. Just for you.
Is it a challenge to rep him?
It is, absolutely, 100%. That is a challenge, and that is something that we battle and talk about on a daily basis, is how do you get everybody the adequate number of reps. Thankfully, we've got some really good competitive practices coming up against some opponents. That gives you a good look, as well as the preseason games. So those guys are going to have to play a lot of ball in the preseason.
Running backs behind Aaron and AJ. I mean, these next couple of weeks, I would think it'd be really important. Can you just talk about what Patrick and maybe Goodson and the rookie are doing?
Yeah, they're all competing hard. We're going to try to just philosophically, it is tough to rep that many backs. But when you get into some of these preseason games, you'd like to feature a guy to get him, into a rhythm. What it's like to be a starting back in this league. It's hard to just, hey, you got this series, the next guy goes the next series, the third guy goes the next series. It's hard to get into a flow of a game that way, into a rhythm. So what we'll do is we'll have a featured back in each one of those games, maybe done by half. We haven't gotten quite that far yet, but I think those guys, a lot of it is going to come down to what else do you have to offer. Certainly, there's got to be a certain prerequisite in terms of your ability to run the football, but what are you doing in pass protection? What are you doing on teams? How are you catching the ball out of the backfield? All that plays into it in determining who's going to be that third back. And when you think about a third back, usually they bring some sort of value to teams.
Coach, I know you're always collaborating among your staff, but is there a little bit more this year trying to get a lot of young guys in certain positions to get looks, or is it too early for that?
I think it's a balance. Certainly, we're not even through all the installs yet. So I think once you get kind of through all the installs, so by the end of this week, we'll have more of a focus moving forward. But you want to lay the groundwork of what you think you're going to have to use, throughout the course of the season. And certainly that kind of takes on a life of its own as you navigate and you go through and you progress, and it's ever changing. So. But I think early on, you just want to get through the first couple weeks, the first 2 weeks specifically, get your installs in, get everybody familiar with the majority of what the things you think you're going to use during the season, and then you kind of, pivot from there.
You talk about wanting more consistency at center. Obviously, Josh was a high draft pick for you guys. Where does he need to grow to get from where he's at right now to that point that you want him to be?
It's just, first of all, whoever's at that spot has a heck of a challenge on a daily basis going against, especially like when Kenny's in there. I think our D-line's done a really nice job. I think TJ's upped his game, Ford's upped his game. So whoever's at that spot, it's been a challenge. Our defense is doing some nice things schematically that's presenting some problems for the offense. They've been tough to block up front, to be honest with you. And so, you can't discount that. But at the same time, it's tough to get anything going when you got guys running through A-gaps or whatever it may be. So just more consistent play, because it's obviously it's not like that all the time, but you can't have that. You can't have people in the quarterback's face. You got to make sure we're able to reach shades and whatnot, whatever run scheme we're deploying. So I just think it's just overall more consistent play.
What has Joe and this defensive staff done with that group this year? What are they doing? What are they showing you? What do you want from them?
Yeah, it's definitely, I think there is a lot of self-scout going on in the offseason and studying, just trends around the league. And I think that's our job every year. I think we've got a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball, and it's our job to try to maximize that and get guys to play at their potential. And so, in this business, if you don't evolve, you fall behind. And so I think our coaches have done a really nice job of really pushing our guys and trying to throw a lot of different looks at the offense, which, when you have some youth, it can be a little bit challenging. And mind you, there's not a lot of like game planning going on. It's just more or less, especially early on, you're trying to lay the foundation. You want guys to trust their rules, and whatever happens out there happens. Whatever they see, they got to be able to play it. And I think as you go through training camp, and you get more specific with especially when you're starting to go against other teams, it tends to get a little bit more simplistic from a mental standpoint in terms of how much you're throwing at them. I think it gets really, really difficult when you have a menu that's 7 installs deep right now that you're just picking from. It's hard, especially when you get in those call-up periods. It's easier, obviously, you get a script the night before, those guys are studying the script, but when you get in those call-up periods, it is a challenge. But that's the beauty of this. You want to see what guys can handle and who's going to kind of fold under the pressure.
You said you weren't worried about, go ahead, you've been trying to prepare.
Sorry. Well, the format is pretty similar on Saturday to what it's been in your tenure so far.
We got a few little wrinkles for you guys.
You were talking about the other day that you're not so worried about the end result on offense. Of course, that's all we see. Us guys here is the end result. Are you seeing progress offensively, or is it still, do you have to get to the installs, do you think, before?
I think we'll have a better indication, the longer we go throughout camp. I think there's been some good moments. There's been some tough situations. There's going to be another tough situation for the offense today. Anytime you get in those 2-minute end-of-game situations where, you need to score a touchdown, that's a challenge. So what I'd like to see is just the ability to execute when plays are there, and it takes everybody. And one guy, isn't perfect with his technique, and there's pressure in the quarterback's face, then he can't see what's going on downfield. So just trying to get everybody, you really want to get those 2-minute drives going to give yourself an opportunity. And, a lot of times that hasn't been the case thus far.
You're a week into camp, and obviously your open practice, you have quite a turnout in the fans. What kind of reception have you noticed for Jordan as he's taken over, and what are you looking forward to having him in the bowl, full stadium on Saturday night?
Yeah, that's something that, I'm a little bit oblivious to. I try not to focus on that a whole bunch. You guys you probably know better than I do, to be honest with you. So, but I think it seems like everybody's pretty supportive and excited for him, just as we are. And, we'll see how it goes.
And Matt, having been through a few of these family nights now, with fans and everything, just what do you think about that event, and just how unique is that for what you guys do?
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. I think it's great for our young players to get into Lambeau. It essentially gets the gets their adrenaline going. It feels more game-like. So I think it's a great opportunity for them to experience that before they go into a preseason game. I've never experienced anything like this, quite honestly, in any other place I've ever been. It's more similar probably to a big-time spring game at, one of the big-time schools. So it is a really cool experience for our guys, their first experience in Lambeau, and kind of get the jitters out of the way, if you will.
After mini camp,
you were walking by defensive backs tackling donuts and saying every rep counts. We're always watching, every rep counts. So actually, are there times where you see a guy in an individual drill or the retention he's got in the classroom says, we need to look at this guy when we're playing team?
First of all, it's very observant of you, Mike. So, great job. Yeah, I really believe that. You have to maximize your time on the field. It's not like we're out there for 3 hours. We're out there for about, at the most, 2 hours. We finally have no limitations at this point in terms of, the hour and a half, hour and 45, 2 hours. Now I think it's 2.5 hours that we can be out there, or whatever it is. It's not like we ever go over that anyway. So, but I just think you have to maximize your time. You have to be intentional, very deliberate, mindful about what you're doing, what you're trying to accomplish, how you're going to get that done, so that you can take whatever you're doing in Indy and take it to team, and then hopefully that translates over to the game. So that's something that we're constantly harping on our guys about.
Coach, yes. One more. Sorry. Is it hard with a first-year starter at quarterback to rep and/or stress tempo in and out of the huddle, at the line, all that stuff? Because, I mean, you guys are subbing, Adam's there in the huddle with him. Like, is that a tough kind of...
Yeah, that's one thing I'd definitely like to see pick up. I think Jordan does a great job of spitting the plays out. Part of it's sometimes, I'm thinking something in my head when I'm calling it, and I got to communicate the personnel a little bit better. So a lot of that will fall on myself. But absolutely, when we get the call out, I want to see more tempo to the line of scrimmage, and that's all 11 guys, from the O-linemen to the wideouts getting lined up. Obviously, there's a lot of moving parts in our offense, whether we're motioning, double motioning, shifting, whatever it may be. So you would like to have enough time to be able to get that accomplished. And we've been a little bit sluggish, especially the last practice, way too sluggish out of the huddle.